And today I want to talk about a subject that I was actually discussing at a pastoral retreat recently. And I was sitting there with Bishop Sands out of Florida. And we were talking about the coming potentially tough economic times. And there is a great probability that things are going to get even tougher economically than they are now. And so many people even now, they're experiencing some tough financial hardships because here in the last few months, rent has increased an average of 30 to 40%. The government says that the inflation rate is about 8.6%, but how many of y'all feel like it's 8.6%? Nobody feels like it's 8.6%. Rent is up 30 to 40%. Gas prices have doubled over the last year. The interest rate from home mortgages is double what it was a year ago. You go into the grocery store to buy food and it is skyrocketed. So I don't know where they're getting 8.6% from, but I don't know anyone who feels 8.6%. And as we were sitting there talking, and I was telling Bishop Sands, I said, really what is happening, those at the very top, the 1/10 of 1%, the rich are getting richer, and the poor are getting poorer. And I was saying this is the actual biblical verse that Jesus talks about. To them who hath it shall be added unto. And when I said that the rich are getting richer, God spoke into my spirit, that will be your next subject. So I speak to you today from the subject of the rich get richer. And I'm not here just to talk about the rich are getting richer. I'm here to try to teach you how to become rich. And I spoke about the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. I spoke about this a long time ago, and I went back to listen to the sermon. It was actually sermon number 5028 called The Haves and the Have-Nots. And when I went back to listen to the sermon, I was preaching this on a Friday night, which meant this was before I became senior pastor. This was like 20-something years ago. But truth and principle does not change. It was true back then that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, and it's true today that the rich get richer and the poor gets poorer. So I don't want to just talk about the phenomena, because there's no use in you arguing with the phenomena, just like it's no use in you arguing about gravity. It's a law. So if gravity is bothering you, lighten up. Do what you can do, but you cannot change the law. Now, you can move to Mars when they get colonization up there, or to the moon. There's a quarter gravity there, but you still got some other issues. And you still will be faced with the physical properties of that place. The physical properties here, you're dealing with gravity, and you're dealing with the principle of the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. That's a principle. It is a natural principle. It is a spiritual principle. That's why you have the Sherman Antitrust Act. You have the Sherman Antitrust Act because when companies start growing and they start getting bigger and bigger, they take over everything. When they become rich, they get richer and richer and richer and richer and richer. And they end up just controlling all of the stuff. So that's why the government had to step in and say, look, we can only just let you get just so big because you're getting too rich. And we got to legally stop this thing, or else major corporations will take over everything and they will monopolize. And whenever they monopolize an industry, the poor suffer because they'll shoot the prices up because there's no competition and everybody in the middle and the bottom suffers. The rich get richer. And that verse is actually in Matthew 13:12. Actually, Jesus repeats this several times. For whosoever hath, to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. But whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away even that he hath. Now, I'm going to deal today with your mentality of moving to the rich side. Your ability to be able to cross the tracks, your ability to go up the hill, your ability to move to the mindset and the state physically and spiritually where you are on the rich side. Now, Pastor James's next sermon is actually going to deal with some actual practical things that you can do that will help you in the financial arena practically. But I'm not going to deal with any of the financial practical stuff today, because being rich in its true sense is not a matter of how much money you have. And that's one of the things I want to shift your mind to. Now, James's next sermon will be 8257. So perhaps you're listening to this long after I preach this, and James will have preached his sermon, so you can go to brothersoftheword.com and you can listen to 8257. I want you to listen to 3 sermons dealing with this. First, the haves and the have-nots, that's 5028. Second, James's sermon, 8257. And the third one that Elijah preached a couple of weeks ago, called The Gratitude Habit, Part 1, sermon number 7-9er. 4-9er. And these 3 sermons will help you move to the rich side of life. Now, one of the principles of being rich, the rich not lazy. That's one of the things you will find. The rich are not lazy. So if you say, that's just too much to go listen to, this ain't for you. It's too much for me to go and spend time to listen to those 3 messages. If it's too much for you to go and listen, you are not ready for the rich side, because the rich folk are not lazy. They are willing to go above and beyond the crowd to get what everybody else does not have. And that's one of those main principles. And that may have been why God told me today, don't even consider time. Because the other thing about getting rich, usually it takes you some time to get rich. That's one of the things the Bible even talking about. Those who are looking for a get-rich-quick scheme usually always end up broke and busted. Because it's usually not. Now, sometimes you have a rare outlier that the stuff just happens in a nut. It just happens, in a real quick nutshell, just so fast and quick. But that's rare. In every case that I know where it looks on the outside like it was an overnight success, when you study it, it wasn't overnight. It's 20 or 30 years worth of preparation. And they pop out on the scene, or it looks like God pours all this blessing into them. But when you look at the history, you'll find they didn't regard time, and they weren't in a hurry. They were diligently plodding through day by day by day by day to get to the destiny where they are. So that's perhaps why God said, don't even regard time today. Rich is really not about money. And when Jesus said this verse, he wasn't talking about money. He was actually talking about understanding and wisdom. But it just applies to everything. To you, if you have it, you can get it. And it applies to everything. Those who have a lot get a lot. It applies to everything. I don't care what you're talking about. If you're talking about even relationship, do you know it's easy to get somebody if you got somebody? Don't nobody, it just is. It's just something about it. All through my life, I've just seen a man who got somebody can get somebody. And look like the law of compassion would say, let the attractive force be on somebody who ain't got nobody. It don't work like that. If you got 3, you can get 3 more. If you got 0, it's hard to get 1. That thing is just a law of nature and spirit in every single area. If you got health, you seem to get more health. If stuff breaking down, stuff just start accelerating, breaking down. It applies to, it's not just money, it's everything. If you have wisdom, and that's what Jesus was actually talking about. If you have wisdom, those who have wisdom are constantly studying. They're constantly growing. They're constantly increasing their wisdom. Those with no wisdom, watching Netflix. So there is a difference of the haves and the have-nots, of the rich and the poor. That's a difference of mindset. And it is this mindset that takes you to the rich side or the poor side. And I want to talk to you today and help to change mindset. The first thing that you have to understand, rich is not about money. Money is definitely a part, but rich is having abundance. It's as simple as that. Rich is having abundance. A man once found a bottle, and in the bottle, as he was polishing it off, a genie popped out. And the genie told the man, I'm going to give you 3 wishes. But the only catch is, you got hate in your heart. You went through a bitter divorce, and you hate your ex-wife. So the only catch of my 3 wishes, whatever you wish for, your ex-wife gets double. So the man, he punched. I said, well, I said, I want $1 billion. He said, with $1 billion, I can enjoy life. I never have to worry about any more money again. I can sit out, relax on the beach. I can just enjoy myself. That's enough to carry me. Give me $1 billion. And the genie snapped his fingers. $1 billion is in your bank account. But your ex-wife has $2 billion. The man said, oh, whoo, it just bothered him just to no end. Whoo, it just bothered him. And he said, I love golf. I really love golf. Said, Genie, make me the best golf player in the world. He said, bam! He said, your golf skills have now gone through the roof. He said, you can run rings around Tiger Woods. You can go in and you can beat all of the other golfers in the world, but I am sorry to inform you that your ex-wife is better. So you are now the second best golfer in the world. And that just frustrated this man. He had $1 billion. He was the second best golf player in the world. He could beat Tiger Woods, all the folk on the PGA Tour. But it just bothered him because his ex-wife had $2 billion and could beat him at golf. So he said, hold on a minute, let me think. Hold on. Let me just think for a few minutes. Hold on. And he sat and he thought, and then he said, Genie, he said, I want you to beat me half to death. With all of this, he couldn't be happy because he had hate in his heart. And see, with hate in your heart, you can't be rich. With jealousy in your heart, you can't be rich. It steals your joy and it steals your abundance. It's not about money. And that's what people get so confused about. I remember we were having our Men of Vision meeting once, and one of the men said, I want $1 billion. And I think I'm going to get $1 billion. I want $1 billion. I said, well, why you want $1 billion? And I want $1 billion. I said, well, what you going to do if you get $1 billion? So first of all, I'm going to tithe. said, all right, that's a very good, absolutely the first thing you need to do is tithe. Now, you got $900 million left. What you going to do with that? He said, I give everybody in here $1 million. All right? You got $850 million left. What you going to do with that? And it's, And I'm not criticizing that situation because, to be honest, I don't know what I would do with $1 billion. But I don't want $1 billion. So the thing is, sometimes we have all of these fantastic way out visions right now. We passed by the lottery sign. It's almost at $300 million for both of the big lotteries. And we can't help but to peruse and to wonder, Lord, what I could do. What I could do with $300 million. What would you do with $300 million? Well, first of all, I'd buy me a house. You got a house. Are you keeping that one clean? Well, I get me a maid. All right. You got this big house. Now you got a maid. I get me a cook. Now you got a cook. I get me a chauffeur. Now you got a chauffeur. You got all this stuff. So what you gonna do every day? Well, I'm gonna travel. I go see the world, all right? After you spend a couple of years traveling, you done seen most of the stuff you can see. What you gonna do after that? Well, you see, that's the issue. Most of us have these fantastic ideas that money will solve all of our issues, that money will make us happy. And what you find when you study the psychological statistics, most of the people who suddenly come into big money, they're less happy a year later. Because they're not rich, even though they have a whole lot of money. So the first thing I've got to drill into your head, rich is not about money. It's about abundance. But it's not about the abundance of money. All you need is enough. And anything beyond enough really becomes superfluous. All you need is enough. How much food can you eat? Matter of fact, but most of us, we eat too much now. So you don't need more food. How many clothes can you wear? I got challenges right now. I've got to go through my closets. I've got to go through all of my stuff. 80% of the clothes that I own, I don't wear. I got all these shoes, stuff, brand new, still in boxes. I got too much stuff. And some of you got too much stuff. Have you noticed one of the most, the exploding, growing businesses are storage facilities? Have you noticed how many storage facilities? Folk got too much. They don't even have anywhere to put all this stuff. So they go and they buy a storage facility, pile the storage facility full, pay every month for the storage facility, rather than ever go back in. And they got all this stuff. They got to pay somebody to keep your stuff. And yet, most have in their minds, I will be happy if I can get more stuff. Oh, Pastor, you don't understand. If I get that $300 million, I'm going to have me a sharp car. How many cars can you drive? How many cars can you drive? And then what you don't understand is when you get that stuff, folks start looking at you, and you're going to have a line of folk after you because they want the stuff you got. And they figure by right, just because they know you, you ought to give it to them. So you're going to have, that's one of the reasons why the people who come in this big money, all of a sudden they're less happy because all these folk be trying to latch on to them and drain them and pull and expecting all of this stuff. And you don't understand with this. It's not like you think with money. Rich is not based on your bank account. Now, you do need sufficiency. And that's what Pastor James's message is going to deal with, of how do you get sufficient. There's a ways to get financially solid and stable, because lack of money can mess you up. And lack of money can take your peace. Lack of money can take your joy. Lack of money can mess you up. But after you have sufficiency, and your mentality even determines your sufficiency requirements. God is really working with me on, he's really working with me on cutting down on just stuff. Well, Pastor, you just bought this brand new expensive car. Really, to be honest, that wasn't my choice, to be honest about it. It really, really wasn't. But you all know I also had the smallest car in the world for years. And I was just as happy in that car as I could be. The car don't make me. And it don't make me happy nor sad no matter what I'm driving. And I can drive anywhere. And any of y'all have traveled, you know, I can drive anywhere. I'm just as comfortable wherever I am, because it's not about my external surroundings. That thing is about an internal peace. I'm rich on the inside. And when you become rich on the inside, no matter what happens to you, you're able to see God's hand, and you're able to see him moving, and you're able to appreciate stuff. That's why I want you to go back and listen to see Elijah's message on the gratitude habit, part 1. And see, Elijah gave a couple of examples of just how he went through some stuff that just would have had other folk all upset, and he was able to see. He said, always pull 5 things that you are thankful for. And I had a situation. I just came back this morning from out of town, and I had a situation while I was out of town that could have really messed me up. I had something hit my car again. This brand new car I got. That's why God said, you can't put no price on it, because this stuff is temporal. This stuff will tear up and stuff and mess with it. I'm driving one night, I'm talking to Pastor James on the phone, and I said, man, I hear something, flapping on my tire. Then the light came on the dash. Severe tire underinflation, pull over immediately. So I get to the spot where I can pull over, the tire just flat as it can be. I said, something done flattened this tire again, and then something has hit my car, there's this black spot. What in the world going on with this car? Now, you all have to understand, the first is so much stuff behind it, it even involves this church. I've written it all up. It's at coachb.me/PT. PT stands for prayer tower. So coachb.me/PT, and you'll be able to read the whole story. But anyway, I'm here looking at this thing, and then it's 10 o'clock at night. And I said, well, good thing about it is it didn't run me off the road. Good thing about it is I got an air pump. Good thing about it is I ain't hurt. Good thing about it is if I have to get the tire fixed, I can pay for it. Good thing about it is. So I went about all these good things about it. And I was able to pump the car, the tire held till I got back to where I was staying. And Pastor James said, I'll stay on the phone with you too. You guys, you don't need to stay on the phone with me. I'm fine. I'm going to make it back just as fine. And if I don't make it back, ain't nothing you can do about it anyhow. So the next day, I take the car up to get the tire repaired. They take the tire off. They called me back in the back. Oh, well, that don't sound too hot. And they said, Mr. Bronner, what has happened? A nail or something went through your tire, but somehow it flapped around on the inside, and it is scratched up and put a gash in the inside firewall. And we cannot, on the inside sidewall. And they said, we can't repair it without taking on excess liability, because you cannot repair a sidewall damage in a tire. I said, well, you got one? They said, no, we don't have a tire for this car. We got to order this. But we're the biggest tire dealer in town, and all the other tire places come to us for special tire. So we can have it for you tomorrow. Tire was almost $500. But when he said it's going to be $500, I said, well, I got the $500. I'm in good shape. They can fix it. I'm looking at the bright side of things. This is a blessing. The fella asked me, what's your phone number? We'll give you a call. I gave him my phone number. My phone number has a 9 in it. So when I told him the 9, I didn't say 9, I said niner. And he said, are you military or a pilot? I said, I'm a pilot. He said, I am too. And he went to we got to talking about flying and all of this stuff. And then he went to telling me about we exchanged our near-death experiences, because both of us had them. I said, that's why I stopped flying. I stopped flying when my second son was born, and I had a couple of these near-death experiences in that plane. And I said, Lord, this is just too dangerous. And I'm not scared, but I ain't stupid. I said, this thing is too dangerous. My insurance went up fourfold. I said, this plane is just too dangerous. And I got now 2 sons. I'm not going to take this risk. So I stopped flying. He went on, he did his advanced training and life. He was telling me about one of his situations where he was coming in, landing, and he had this big old 33-mile-an-hour tailwind. And how it messed him up and caused him to overshoot the runway and almost crash. And I didn't think about that thing until this morning. On my way back, the economic times have really hit our companies pretty heavy. And for the last couple of months, my company has been down in sales just tremendously. But God spoke to me. He said, for 3 months, you're going to be down, but you're on the runway. And after those 3 months, you'll take off. And I thought about it. I said, the man had a huge tailwind. If you know about flying, tailwinds are not good trying to take off or land. You have to always take off and land into the wind. You never want the wind behind you. You want the wind coming at you. And there's an aerodynamic reason for that. When wind is coming at you, it does what technically called lowers your stall speed. So you're able to take off better. The wind is an advantage to you. And I said, Lord, you said we're on the runway. You got to have some headwinds when you're on the runway. And all of the things I've been thinking about were adversities that were trouble. That's nothing but headwinds that'll help us take off. So you learn, and one of the things about being rich, you begin to see God in everything. And you see his hand in everything. I said, Lord, you had to pop that tire again so I can go there and talk to that man, talk to Josh. He told me about this 33-mile-an-hour tailwind and how it nearly crashed his plane. But yet now I understand if we're on the runway, we don't need a tailwind, we need a headwind. So you send us against adversity, against strain. Some of you all are on the runway, but you hollering about the headwind. And you need the headwind to take off. You cannot take off with a tailwind, because with a tailwind, you're liable to crash. It takes too much runway length. And when I saw that this morning, I said, Lord, thank you. Thank you. Rich is a state of mind. Yes. And the richest man in the world right now goes through bouts of depression. He goes through times where he can't sleep. All of his relationships have broken up. He's dealing with a whole lot of enemies and a lot of controversy and just a lot of stuff. And yet I admire him tremendously. He's one of the most brilliant businessmen. His direction in which you want to take the world in terms of environmental and just the honesty behind it is just super. But he's just going through a whole lot of stuff. He got lawsuits against him right now for $258 billion. He got to deal with all these folks trying to get his money. So I admire him, but I wouldn't want to be him. And he's the richest man in the world. And when you can look at all of the top 4 richest men in the world, none of them have stable relationships. Elon Musk is the richest man in the world. He's gone through all of his divorces, and the one he went at, Jeff Bezos, second richest man in the world. He just busted up with his wife. Bill Gates, the 3rd richest man in the world. They've been out, and I thought Bill was going to make it. Bill ain't made it. I said, if anybody going to make it, Bill ain't make it. So one thing about it, they didn't break up because they lacked money. They didn't break up because the house was too small and cramped. They didn't break up because they didn't have but one car that they had to share. They didn't break up because of the price of gas. They didn't break up because the price of food was too high. They didn't break up because of money. They had more money than they knew what to do with. Money only solves money problems, and sometimes it can even create some more problems. So here you have to understand when you look at those with extreme amount of wealth, and there's no telling what's going on in their personal world and the struggles that they deal with. Like all of us have to deal with struggles. If you have sufficiency, you are rich. That's why Paul said, having ye food and raiment. That's why Jesus, when he sent the disciples out, he said, look, don't take a wallet with you. Don't you take an extra coat. Don't take an extra pair of shoes. You go with what you got on your back. And it took me a while to understand that. But yet, when they came back, Jesus asked them, have ye lacked anything? And they said, Lord, no. And we've got so much stuff, we're making the storage business richer. Because we got so much stuff, we have nowhere to put it. We have nowhere to put it. How many of you all have closets that just have 20% extra space? Just 20%. Raise your hand. You got closet space right now. You just got 20% of your closet got extra, get empty. Where you can go buy 10 suits or 10 dresses right now and they're going to fit easily into your closet. Raise your hand. We got how many? 1, 2, 3, 4. Got four. We got 4 people out of all these people sitting here that got extra space where they can buy 10 dresses and a fit. So that means your closet is jammed. And I'm not criticizing you, because mine the same way. I got to get rid of 80% of my stuff. And I got to get rid of it because it clutters up. It's too much. We're not short of stuff, but the world makes you think that you are, that you got to have the latest and you got to have the greatest. And there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes it puts us in a mentality and it puts us in a strain, and it makes us where we feel we can't be happy without this. And that's a lie of the devil. You can be happy. And I've traveled to so many different countries. And I see over and over and over and over, the countries with the happiest people have the least amount of material. They don't usually have cars. Not only just a latest, they don't have cars, period. They don't have cars, they don't have fancy houses, they got little of nothing material, but you can just see the glow and you can see the smile on their face, you can see the peace in their hearts. My biggest revelation that when I was in the middle of the Amazon, them folk, they only have a little, they were topless, little skirt. The house was just a hut with no door on it. And the folk were just as happy as they could be. They were amazed and fascinated by an ink pen. But they were so happy. And the guy was telling me, he said, they get married here about 14, 15 years. I said, what? I said, what's the divorce rate? We don't have any divorce. I said, whoa. I came out of that jungle, and I spent days in that. I came out of that jungle wondering who was poor. I'm in the middle of all these folks walking around half naked in huts with no doors on the huts. And I came out of that jungle wondering who was poor. I see these people just as joyous as they can be. And I see Americans struggling and fretting and frowning and all these issues and problems. We got all this stuff. We loaded down with stuff. And we are burdened with a lot of this stuff. It's got us burdened with the notes of the stuff. It's got us burdened with the prestige of the stuff. It's got us burdened trying to compete and trying to compare and trying to have more than somebody we don't even like. And I wonder, so who is poor when I came out of that jungle? And I'm looking at these folk. I'm saying, wow. Wow. And God is taking me to levels of where I just want you to, you need less and less. You don't need all this stuff. And I see that, right? You don't need all this stuff. You really, really don't. Not to be truly happy and to have true joy. Do you know what it's like, how you feel in the morning when you just had a good night's sleep? A good night's sleep. The Bible says sleep comes difficult for a rich man. You got too many problems. First of all, too many folks trying to take your stuff. And you got to worry about this, you got to worry about that. But a laborer Their sleep is sweet. Do you know how valuable it is just to have a good night's sleep? And that's one of the ways to tell if you're rich, how you're sleeping. And that don't cost anything. Not money. And you can't buy it with some Zoloft or some Adderall or some other sleeping pill. That just doesn't work. I read the book, Why We Sleep, big old thick book about that thick, and it talked about all of the prescriptions. Bottom line, they don't work. They'll put you to sleep, but the sleep ain't worth a hoot. You need some good sleep. And sometimes to get that good sleep, what you need is a good meal. Then you need a good woman with a good time. You'll sleep like a baby. But you can't buy that. You can't buy that. Well, I mean, you can buy it, but it ain't that. You can buy it, but it ain't no good. It doesn't have that power of the connection, and these are the kinds of things money cannot buy. But it's the kind of things that folk in those huts had. And they had a good night's sleep. And when they woke up, they were at peace. The rich get richer. That thing is a matter of spirit. And Jesus said, he said, basically, it's a matter of understanding, and those who have not understanding, they don't even know what you're talking about. They're still stuck on, if I can just get that 300 million, I would be happy. No, you will not. If you're not happy with $30, you ain't going to be happy with 300 million. It's just as simple as that. And there's one verse in the Bible that no one's ever preached on this verse, except perhaps me. I've never heard anybody ever talk about this verse. We talk about Jacob and Esau and how Jacob got Esau's birthrighted. Jacob was coming back to his brother Esau, and how Esau sought to kill Jacob. But this verse is perhaps one of the most profound verses of the entire Old Testament, and it is one of the most profound and key verses to being rich. And it's in Genesis 33:9. But Esau said, and this, let me paint a picture of this. Jacob was coming back. And because he was afraid that his brother Esau may kill him because he had kind of deceived him out of his birthright, he had sent all of this stuff ahead to appease Esau. He had sent all of these cattle, all of these sheep, all of these horses, and that was the money in their day. It was the beast of the field and of the farm and the land. Jacob had sent all of this stuff, just waves and waves and waves of stuff to his brother to appease his brother, hoping that his brother wouldn't kill him. So when Jacob finally got in the presence of Esau, and he'd sent him all of this stuff, in Genesis 33:9, but Esau said, I have enough, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself. One of the most powerful verses in the whole Bible. It is something that we don't know today. Those three simple words. Nobody preaches that. Nobody teaches that. No course is going to teach you that. No college course is going to teach you that. No company is going to teach you that. No coach is going to teach you that. No trainer is going to teach you that. And most preachers won't teach you that. I have enough. When do you get to the point where you got enough? The American society is on a treadmill to more and to more and to more. Give me more and more and more and more. When is enough? Esau told Jacob, I have enough, my brother. Keep what you have. There were three major things in that little statement. First of all, he said, I have enough. When you really go to thinking about it, the vast majority in here, you've got enough. Yeah, you may want some more. And there's nothing wrong with trying to climb to get higher, but this thing is a mentality. And there's a difference between advancing out of discontent and advancing simply because you always want to get better. There's a difference out of that. And most of the world, in America in particular, we're on this corporate grind. It's why when you go to some other countries, they're just so relaxed. You know, if you go to eat in a restaurant here in America, and you got you some good chicken, and you take your last bite of chicken, they're snatching the plate from you. You got the chicken still in your mouth. You got your last bite of chicken, they're snatching the plate from you. When you go to other countries, you can't even get the check because they are so relaxed. They're in no hurry. And you can sit there at the table for 2 hours and nobody will bother you. If you've traveled internationally, you know this is true. You can sit there at the table and nobody will bother you. But if it's Americanized, oh, no, you're in a hurry. You got to get this table cleaned out so I can get somebody. And our whole world is like that. But when you go to all of the countries that have the highest happiness index, the lowest amount of drug abuse, the lowest amount of divorce, the lowest amount of domestic abuse, the lowest amount of suicide, all those countries, they in no big hurry about stuff. Maybe that's why God said, don't worry about the time. You go and eat in some of these other, you don't worry about the time. You can sit there all day long, and you have to ask the waiter. When we were walking through Spain, I always had to ask you. I couldn't speak Spanish. So what you do is hold up your hand and do like this to let you know, bring me the check so I can pay and get out of here. But they won't bring it because they're in no hurry. They shut down, and you can't get anything to eat from 12 to 2, and sometimes it's be from 12 to, you can't get anything to eat because they shut down. They shut everything down, just go take them a siesta. They do. They go home, they spend time with their family, then they come back to the business. Americans have this misconception that it's a good thing to work 80 hours a week. And we're working round the clock, we're working 2 shifts, 2 or 3 jobs, all for this stuff that we really don't need. And when you get your mind geared to what is truly rich, it changes how you behave, and it changes what you get, and it just changes your whole spirit. And you learn to go through life full of joy. Because what good does it do you? What good does it do you to have $300 billion and you can't sleep and you're depressed? What good does it do you? And that's how much the richest man in the world has, but he deals with consistent, recurring depression because you don't have the joy of Jesus in your heart. But when you listen to the words of Jesus, take no thought for tomorrow, take no wallet, take no extra shoes, take no extra coat. And yet they said, we've had enough. So sometimes being rich for some of you is actually going to mean having less and to let some of this stuff go that you really don't need. And I will give the richest man in the world credit for one thing. He sold all his houses and he moved to a tiny house. The richest man in the world right now lives in a house smaller than any of you all have. He lives in a 500 square foot tiny house. He had 7 massive multi-million-dollar mansions, sold them all, and moved to a tiny house. You know why he did that? Because he understood. After he done lived there, see, some of this stuff you have to experience to believe. Because I know some say, Pastor, I know what you're talking about 300 million. Give me the 300 million. Let me see for myself. He saw for himself. And he saw himself sleeping in a 50,000 square foot mansion and still couldn't sleep in it. So he sold them all. And he literally lives right now in a tiny house that's smaller than what any of you have and where any of you live. So if the richest man in the world with not 300 million, $300 billion, if he's worth 300 billion, which is 300,000 million, if he's worth $300,000 million and he's in a house that is the size of this pulpit. But I can tell you this, he's probably happier in that tiny house than he was in those 7 humongous mansions. The third richest man in the world, Warren Buffett, I played that clip from him where he talked about how he still lives in the same house. He got a 3-bedroom house, and he said, a lot of my billionaire friends, they got all these big 50-room mansions, they ain't happy in all that stuff. He been around them. So people, don't let the lives of the rich and foolish, rich and famous. Don't let the lives of the rich and famous fool you. Some of them would give up half of what they have just to be able to have peace like you do. Just to be able, you just don't know. This stuff is an illusion. And all of this material stuff, it's temporal. And you got to understand some truths about what Jesus taught. And it's why he took you to a whole new level of things. But rich it's in the heart and it's in the mind. And when you get it there, nobody can take it from you. And no matter what happens, you'll find that you give gratitude about everything. And when you get to that point, nothing can upset you or make you sad. And I've been through just experience after experience where other folk, now I got to admit, see Elijah in his gratitude, he talked about he woke up one night and he and his wife were in a hotel room and they woke up and they were covered with sores from bed bugs. I got to admit, that might have bothered me a little bit. I got to admit that. I said, whoo, that was rough, that. But see, Elijah, he named 5 things. He said, number one, the bed, they're not itching. We covered with bites from bed bugs, but it's not itching. He said, number 2, we had a bed. And he went down all of the, he named 5 positive ways. And I know some of you pastors, nowhere in the world I'm going to see anything positive if I wake up with bed bug bites all over my body. You will if you're rich. That's why the rich is a small percentage of any of those areas. You will if you're rich. Because if you are rich, nobody can steal your joy. No bug can steal your joy. God gave you dominion over all of the bugs, and that dominion begins in your mind. So you wake up and you cover with bed bugs. I'm thankful that they're not itching. I'm thankful that I got a bed. I'm thankful we ain't got to stay in this bed tonight. So you give thanks, because some people got beds full of bed bugs and they don't have anywhere to go. They're stuck in it. So these are the things you give thanks for no matter what your situation. So even with all of my stuff, when I have something that appears to me to go wrong, which now I see God orchestrating more and more and more, and sometimes God will send you through a painful lesson to learn a very valuable point. And I said, look, why couldn't you just tell me? Why you got to send me through this stuff? Because you learn better that way. And it impacts into your mind and spirit, and it teaches you how to recognize God's just in control. So if he's in control of everything that happens to me is for my good. That's James and I, we attend this CEO business group once a month. And when we first that's the mantra that they have. Things don't happen to us, they happen for us. That's what rich folk think. Poor folk, stuff happening to me. Rich folk, things happening for me. It's a mind shift. Same thing, but it's a mind shift. The bed bugs. The vast majority of people would have been so negative, they'd have been on the review sites and writing all the bed bug. They done all this stuff. Now, the place that I stayed when I was out of town, to be honest, about a 2-star. There's a lot of stuff wrong with that place. I'm not writing a negative review. I don't write negative reviews. What I am going to do, I'm going to list down all of the improvements, how they need to change, and I'm going to send it to the owner. I'm going to say, this is what you need to do. This is how you need to do it. You can take this advice or not. I'm not going to put a negative review there, but this is what you need to change. And it'll change you from a 2-star to a 3-star. It ain't going to take you to 5, but it'll take you to 3. But that's a mindset. And even the stuff that happened, I look, what is the lesson in this? What is my benefit? What can I gain from this? That's the way I view stuff. It's a rich mentality. So I want to take your mind, not necessarily to where your wealth changes. James is going to talk about that in his message. I want to take you to where your mind changes. Because if your mind doesn't change, it doesn't matter if your money changes. You just be a miserable millionaire. And there's a lot of miserable millionaires. Trust me, there's a lot of miserable millionaires. There's a lot of millionaires and billionaires that have all kinds of issues and all kinds of problems because they don't have a rich spiritual mindset. They got a material mindset. And a material mindset is always going to run you into problems. You'll be like that man with that genie. It'll always run you into problems. So people, we got a destiny ahead of us. We got some tough times coming. I really believe that we do, but I'm not worried about it. And I want to just read what Esau and Jacob said to each other. See, now Esau says, I have enough. Second thing he said was my brother. He forgave him. Jacob had stolen his birthright. He forgave him. I have enough, my brother. Most people say, I got a whole lot, you dirty, low-down scoundrel, you thief. Yeah, that's what most of us would have said. He said, I have enough, my brother. And until you can forgive, you'll never be rich. Because it's always going to be, see, if that man with the genie, if he had forgiven his wife, whole different thing, he ended up being beat half to death. If he had forgiven, and he still wasn't going to be happy. You cannot have joy. You cannot have healing, and that's physical and emotional. You cannot have healing with unforgiveness in your heart. It just ain't going to happen. God ain't going to do it. And Jesus told you that in the Lord's Prayer. Forgive others as you forgive. He'll forgive you as you forgive others. Simple as that. So you can't even get your divine healing with unforgiveness in your heart. I have enough, my brother. When you can just say that, those first two phrases, I have enough, my brother, or I have enough, my sister. I have enough. To the person who has wronged you. And Jacob legitimately wronged Esau. Esau was correct. His birthright, he was deceived. Well, he wasn't fully deceived out of it. He deceived his daddy, but he did give it up for a bowl of beans. But Jacob did tell him, you know, I'm going to get your birthright for this bowl of beans. But that's another story. Forgive. Realize when you have enough. And the third thing he says, take what you have and keep it for yourself. Bless other folk with stuff. Be concerned about other folk, not just you. That's where real richness is coming in. That's why I've even changed my prayer even before I begin my message. Now my prayer is always, Lord, make me a blessing. Everywhere I go, my plea is to, Lord, make me a blessing. Wherever I go, and every now I'm more open to hear what God says, to tell people, and I'm seeing how it impacts lives, and there's not a pulpit in sight. You don't need a pulpit to do that. But you do need to have a spirit. Instead of, Lord, bless me, give me some more stuff, Lord, make me a blessing. It makes you wealthy beyond imagination. It fills your heart with a spirit of joy. They've done the studies of how when they give people money and tell them to spend it on themselves, and they give people money and tell them to spend it on others, and they've done multiple studies of this. The folk are always happier when they spend it on others. But we're not geared to that in the American world. We're geared to, Lord, make me rich. Lord, give me more. Lord, take care of me. Instead of, Lord, make me a blessing. And when you begin to change your prayer to that, you're going to start moving to the rich side. And you'll start seeing and you'll start understanding. And God will then be able to entrust you with more and more and more. Because he'll know it won't go to your head. It won't mess you up. And you will become a greater blessing to his kingdom. I thank you for joining us today at Brothers of the Word. You can go to brothersoftheword.com and you can listen to this message over again and the 3 messages that I recommended in the beginning of the message, which is Pastor James's message, which would be number 8257, the haves and the have-nots, 5028, and the gratitude habit, part 1, 7-9er, 4-9er. Thank you for joining us today at Brothers of the Word, because, brother, you need the Word. I'm going to ask Pastor James to close us out for today.
Amen, amen. Give Pastor Nathaniel another round of applause for that message. Amen. Amen. We're just thanking for his wisdom and his just divine insight to help us have a rich mentality. And this is Father's Day, and even my children, they give me some of the greatest joy. And sometimes we don't count the blessings of what we have, and we all, a lot of times think about children as just expenses, but we don't think about all of the joy that they bring us. So we just thank God that they're worth so much to us, that a lot of those billionaires, they're by themselves. And I remember even Steve Jobs, who created the iPhone and all that, he wasn't in good relationship with his children. So he had all those billions, but he was really by himself, and he didn't have good romantic nor children relationships. Didn't have a good relationship with a lot of his employees. So he had all that money. So we just want to be appreciative and to have gratitude for the things that we have. Amen. And we thank Elijah for that gratitude message. And I don't know if I would have looked at those bed bugs like that myself. that took a rich mentality to look at her. I remember another one of his gratitude points. He's with the bed bugs. He said, "I can't see them." I said, "I don't know if that was a benefit or not to me." And it reminded me, as a guy on YouTube, he had a little twin bed he was carrying around on his back, and he had the bed bugs written on a mattress. And he would just go up to people in the park and ask them. He said, "Can you tell me how to get rid of these bed bugs?" He would just let the bed just hit up against them. And they said, "Man, get out of here with this." But indeed, it takes a rich mentality to really, because we're all going to have these problems of life in one area or another, whether it's health, relationship, finance, or just people. Things are going to irritate you. And it takes this mentality to deal with them. And I travel with Pastor, and as he said, everywhere we go, he looks for the positive. Because no matter where you go in the world, there'll always be something to complain about, or there's be something to be grateful for. And even I took my wife, you all saw the video last Sunday about, it's one of the most beautiful places on earth, vacation spots. And even in the midst of that paradise, they had a lot of seaweed there that people were complaining about. And the fella said, "We've got 5-star service here." And he said, people come here, the rich people, and he said, they'll say, "Do something with this seaweed." He's like, "We don't control the ocean of the seaweed." He said, "We'll get some other rich people here. They'll say, it's supposed to be sunny. Look at these clouds." He tell her, "Well, I'll get God on the line as soon as you leave." And they say that people nitpick the smallest things that we have. We serve the best food, the best service, the best. They will complain about things that we have absolutely no control over. So we saw the demonstration of you having to have the right mindset, even in one of the most perfect places on the earth.